everyone, and welcome to the closing of the Gift of Choice, this incredible marathon with more than 30 certified facilitators. And for this closing, we are so excited, enthused, pumped up to have Dr. Dain Heer in the house. Woo! And we are, and just Dain, for all of us, is such a gift. As co-founder of Access Consciousness, it's just being this incredible, expansive, creative energy that could be even more probably. As we were chatting before, Dain, I mean, just this infinite energy that you are, this dragon unicorn that you are, that just has been the invitation for me, for so many thousands and thousands of people around the world, to use the Access Consciousness tools and to put them in practice and continue choosing and choosing. We want to thank you. And we do these marathons to honor those tools, to honor you and Gary, Simone and Brendan, and just be able to put it out in the world and have people continue choosing and changing their lives. So thank you for changing our life and allowing us to choose to change ours.
Thank you. I am truly honored to be here. And I would like to thank you because without you, this doesn't work. You know, this really is us, all of us. This is the kingdom of we in motion. And we will explore these all kinds of different things and open different doors. But then you walking through the doors and showing other people that, hey, the door is unlocked. You can walk through this door into possibilities is really, for me, one of the greatest gifts. And also, it's like we all are contributing to this movement called consciousness. And so for me to be able to contribute to you, contributing to them is beautiful.
And when we talk about choice, Dain, because we've had during 20 days, we've had these 32 facilitators talk about how we use choice in our everyday life. And you use it exponentially, and you are that invitation to all of us. So when we're talking about the gift that choice is, especially now going into the new year, and how those, and I've heard you talk in the last conversations about how those tiny choices make these immense changes in our lives.
Truly. And the thing is, we need to recognize that choice creates. Choice is actually one of the greatest gifts that we have. And yet most people don't have an idea of what choice is. They think choice is figuring everything out and doing only the right things and never the wrong things. Part of the reason why I'm able to create so much is because I'm willing to make wrong choices. I'm willing to screw it up and then find out what I screwed up, because the very choice always creates. And the very smallest thing that can come from choice, which may not be small at all, is more awareness. Meaning, if you, I don't know, how many of you out there have ever had a relationship that didn't work very well? Did you get more awareness of what you don't want in the future? Yeah. So we have this weird idea, though, that what we should do is make perfect choices. There is no such thing. There's only choice. And if we would allow ourselves the freedom to recognize we're going to screw it up, not even, oh, I might screw it up or it's possible. No, you're going to screw shit up. Okay. We're all going to screw shit up. We've all screwed a lot of shit up. We screwed up a lot more stuff than we've ever chosen. And so let's recognize it and get over it, get over the significance of it, and recognize that every choice we make always leads to more awareness, and it can create a change if we're willing to function from that place and have gratitude for the fact that we have choice, and have gratitude for the choices that we've made and what's been created and what we've been shown as a result of those.
And so can choice be fun?
Yes, absolutely.
Really? Because here they're talking about when you make a choice and you hurt someone.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let me ask a question. Can you truly hurt someone else? I mean, yes, other than going up and punching them in the face or stabbing them, can a choice that you make truly hurt someone else? Or do they tell you that you've hurt them so they can control you into doing what they want you to do, so you don't get to do what you want to do that isn't what they want to do? And so the idea that we can hurt people is something that we use to limit the idea that we can choose. Because, like, for example, Gary, the founder of Access, he had been married to his second wife for, I don't know how many years, 16 years or something. And he chose to get a divorce because he saw that that would create a greater future. And she was like, "You hurt me. You took the best years of my life." And I looked at her and I was like, "Well, if those were your best years, wow, that's pretty interesting." But she was saying this as a way of trying to make him wrong for having chosen something she didn't want him to choose. But this is a woman who had abused him from day one, who was unkind, who was an anger monster and would yell at the kids, yell at him. And finally, one day he'd had enough of being abused. And for Gary, when he makes a commitment, like a marriage, he will stick with it and stick with it and stick with it and stick with it and stick with it until finally he's like, "I can't do it anymore," and stay alive. That choice created more for Gary, for his kids. It actually created more for her if she would have acknowledged it, but she didn't. She wanted to make him wrong, which, guess what? That's her choice. So look at the people in your life and recognize a couple of things. Number one, people always accuse you of what they themselves are doing. So when somebody says, "You hurt me," it's because they have been secretly hurting you or desiring to hurt you. Or they're really pissed because you're leaving the situation so they can't hurt you the way they want to. Okay. People always accuse you of what they themselves are doing. If somebody says you're selfish, it's because they're actually selfish. Otherwise, they wouldn't even have a point of view about it. And so rather than, and when we talk about this choice idea, you ask, can it be fun? And my answer is absolutely. If you're willing to have fun, those are the choices you make that create more of that in your life, if you're willing to have that. But it's like anytime we're talking about having a level of freedom, which is what choice gives you, if you truly have choice, if you have total choice, you have total freedom. And anytime we're talking about anything that gives you a level of freedom, there will always be the idea of, but you could hurt somebody with it. If you had total choice, you might go around stabbing everybody. Well, that's actually not the way it works. What's interesting is the people that want to go around stabbing everybody and the people that secretly gaslight people and steal from them and take from them, they don't have a sense of choice. They're doing those things to prove that they have choice. Somebody who truly has choice has no need to invalidate or limit anyone else. Somebody who truly has choice knows, if I'm in a situation and it's limiting me, I've got a choice to get out of that situation. Choice is where it's at as far as being able to create something different than what we currently have, but also the willingness to recognize that there are experiences we can have as our life and living. There are choices that we have available for how we can be in the world that we can't even begin to fathom until we start choosing. Because the other thing about choice is, let's say you're living a life and what I would suggest that people do is write down the top 10 things in your life that you absolutely love, that absolutely work for you. And then write down a list of 10 things that you would really like to change and put them in order of most desire to change down to least. And look at that and look at what would be the life that I had if these things changed. What would it be like if I had more of this stuff that I really like? And what would it be like if these things changed that I don't like? And see how you would show up in the world. How would you wake up in the morning? Would you have more peace? Would you have more joy? How would you live your life? How would you interact with other people? Would you be more caring for people? Would you be more contributory to people? And realize then that you having choice to create the life that would actually make you happy is what is part of the contribution that you can be to the world that makes everybody's life greater, including yours. And if you actually do that, think of a few people around you right now, that if you were really to have the life you desire, all the money you desire, all the freedom, all the time to travel, all the creation, all the ease, all the joy, all the glory, all the exuberant expression of being alive. Think of 3 people right now that would support that and be like, yeah, you go, girl. You go, boy. You. Wahoo. Write their names down. Okay. Your celebrate with me list of people. Write their names down, because those are the only people you want to talk to about what you're choosing that is different, because those are the only people that will support it. And there aren't very many of them, unfortunately, because what happens is when other people don't believe they have choice and you start choosing, there are some people that get inspired by it. In fact, a lot of people get inspired by it. And then there's some people that get really pissed off because they're like, why don't I have that choice? Well, you do have that choice. You just don't have the balls to make it. You got the choice if you're willing to grow a set of cajones and fucking make the choice, you know? Anyway, everything that brought up, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So write down also the list of people that would secretly have a problem with you having that, having the life you desire, having these changes you're asking for, and would try to talk you out of it. And then look at those people. How many of those people would say that by your choice, you hurt them? What do you mean you're moving to Europe? How can you do that? How can you leave our family? I mean, yes, I see how happy it makes you, but that's terrible that you're leaving our family. Why should you have choice when we don't? Well, come with me. No, we can't. We have too much here to live for. Okay, do you like it? No, I hate it. We all hate our lives. Why don't you hate yours? And that's what we get in the world. People who want us to hate our lives as much as they hate theirs. Do not listen to them. Choose, go create, and change whatever the heck you need to change to have the life and living you truly desire. There is no time like the present. And you know what? If not now, when?
Thank you so much for that, Dain, because actually I believe that one of the things that we use the most to stop ourselves from choosing is the people that we say we love and that we would like for them to travel with us for as long as we are choosing more of ourselves.
So true. And it's interesting though, because we have, the other thing I would ask people to write down is, what are your top 10 excuses for not choosing what you say you desire and for not actually creating it? Because, and most of those may not be cognitive at first, which is why I'm asking you to write them down so you can get it out of your head, because it's in there limiting you. You've just never spoken it or looked at it before. And so if we would do that and go, what are my top 10 reasons and what are my top 10 people that I'm using as my excuses and my reasons and justifications for not having the life I desire? And without a, but all of this has to be done with no judgment. You know, when I was talking about Gary's ex-wife, when I'm talking about the people that say, hey, you shouldn't do this and you're hurting us and whatever, that's not from a space of judging them. This is the difference, okay? And we all know by now, we have a definition of consciousness and access consciousness where everything exists and nothing is judged. And the idea of that is you can look at somebody telling you that you're bad and wrong for what you're choosing. You can look at somebody trying to limit you and have absolutely no judgment of them, but just awareness that that's where they're functioning. They're not wrong. They're just choosing that. And until we really start to get the idea of what choice actually is for us, we don't really have the freedom to recognize that somebody is just choosing this. We try to make a reason and justification for them. And we go, oh, well, they had a bad childhood, or, oh, they were abused, or, oh, they're just afraid of losing me, or, oh, whatever it is. That may be true, but oftentimes our reason and justification isn't actually why they're doing it. But we want to give them an excuse for why they would make that choice. And what we've got to get to is we're doing the same thing for ourselves. Oh, I'm choosing this because, I'm choosing that because. The only because should be it creates more or it's really fun for you, period. Those are your two becauses for choice now, okay? Now, I do realize some people out there are like, you crazy. How do you know? What do you know? I'm like, let's see. I grew up experiencing intense physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse. I was at a place where I was going to end my life 21 years ago, 22 years ago, who knows, somewhere around there now, okay? Access bars changed it completely. And I went from a space of depressed and suicidal and desiring to die, having planned a date to end my life, And after my first bar session, I came out of there, it had changed the space. It gave me space. And I started actually getting this thing called receiving finally. And there's a question on there of what prevents the choice from being fulfilled. And I apologize, I keep hitting my microphone because I'm Italian. I talk with my hands. What are you going to do? What keeps the choice from being fulfilled is our willingness to receive it. Okay? Our willingness to receive the choice. And one of the things that happens is when you get bars, you actually start to get what receiving is. And it's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful space. So that's what opened up for me 21 years ago. And I started finally realizing that I had choice. And so when people say, oh yeah, you just think this and this or whatever, what they're doing is they're using it as a way to separate from the idea that they could have choice too. Why would we do that? Because the choice a lot of people want to make is to be like the people and be with the people and be around the people that they think love them. Cool. From my point of view, love should occur with no judgment. How many of the people that you have in your life that love you, whether they're family or friends or, an enjoyable other, hopefully they're enjoyable rather than significant. Somebody who's shy can have kids in relationship with, whatever, however you want to call it. Okay. Whoever that person is for you. Okay. But from my point of view, that person should be somebody who doesn't judge you, who should be somebody who has your back and sees you as a gift in the world, even when you're not willing to see yourself that way. Well, if we can recognize that what we have been doing is we have been trying to match the vibration of the people in our lives that judge us the most as a way of trying to get them to like us by trying to be like them. So they'll finally like us, or if we extend that a little bit, so they'll finally love us and we'll finally get the love that we desire because we've never been taught to love ourselves. And that's where choice comes in. But the choice most of us have been making is to keep our vibration similar to those that judge us the most. Trying to find a way, believing there is some magic formula where if I just origami myself enough, if I just bend, fold, staple, and mutilate myself enough, I will become that magic thing that unlocks judgment in the world, and they will finally love me. My only question is, how old are you? And how much of those years, how many of those years on the planet have you been doing this? And has it ever friggin' worked? And the answer, of course, is no. Okay. It's like that great philosophical question. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around, is the man still wrong? The answer there is yes, though. Okay. Okay. But the thing is, we've been doing it our whole lives, believing it will create a different result than it's created for the last 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 decades. But it doesn't, but there is something that does. Being an allowance of them for whatever their point of view is, whatever their judgment is, whatever they think reality has to be, and recognize they have their reasons for that, and that's okay. You haven't lived their life. You don't know what those reasons are, even though they tell you some of them. And then being an allowance of you and going, wow, they have their life that they're living that is the rightness for them. What would it be like if I had my life that I was living that's actually wonderful for me? And what would that be? And that's the other thing I would ask you to write down, okay? If I had a magic wand right now and could create my life as anything, what would it be? And what I like to do is I like to get the sense of it energetically. But I also, there's a place or a space where writing it down can be helpful for people also, because it gets out of their head once again. So much of our lives, we're living with things in our head that they are sort of in the background, so the creative things don't get out to create. And the yucky, judgmental things stay in there and they just kind of eat at us and push the creative stuff out to where we can't get it. But if we go through some of these questions, some of these fun home play, what happens is it starts getting out of our head and we start to get a lot more clear on us. And when we get clear on us and who we are and what we are, when we get clear on what's true for us, because what's true for you always makes you lighter. What starts to occur is you start to actualize it. You start to create it in the world without even doing anything different. It's amazing. That's how miraculous we are. We're miraculous, and we're also very confused because we've been living in a world that's not really ours. I mean, I had an awareness many years ago, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not from this planet. Oh my God. That makes so much sense. It was the only thing that made sense to me. I'm like, I'm a fucking alien. Wow. Okay. That's why people will say, oh, I do this. And it seems to work for them. I'm like, I would hate that. But how many of us growing up try the things that don't work for us because we don't realize we're an alien? Okay, so how many of you out there are actually aliens? How many of you have not acknowledged it? How many of you would recognize, I'm an alien? Oh my God, that's what's going on. Oh my God, I'm not from this planet. Everything that is times a godzillion. We destroy and uncreate it, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Yes, sir.
So, Dana, I have a question about two things around choice that I'm really curious. I was listening to Sarah Grandinetti, who is also Dr. Dain's sister, a marvelous facilitator, and she was speaking to this energy of family and how whenever Dain would come and interact, whenever third person, first person, whenever you and her would interact, you would show up. She could never predict who you were when you showed up to the family. So she could never actually try to fit you into her family, and always felt grateful afterwards. What are some things, what is that? Is that demand, or how does that situation always show up as you play with choice?
I'm really grateful you asked, because Sarah's one of the members of my family that I was willing to do that with, because I've always been the weirdo in my family, and luckily I grew up with a part of my family that actually loved me, which was really helpful, because I could be the weirdo that I was, even if they looked at me like, oh, he's doing weird shit again. Okay, go Dain, go, but with Sarah, I was always willing to just be me, whatever that was. And I change all the time. And that's one of the things that Access gives you, is the ability to change how you show up, not from a really fickle way, but from a really present way. It's like, wow, I have more of me today than I had yesterday. So I would see her, today, and then I'd see her 6 months from now. And 6 months from now, I'd be a totally different person. And I'd be like, hi, but with her, there was no requirement to origami myself to something that fit the construct of her reality. And she's one of the people in my family where that's the case. Now, so what we learn from family is to be the cog in the wheel, if you will, or we like, okay, so we grow up and we get all kinds of information about who we're supposed to be for people. And all of us do. And so what we do is we just play our role. You basically, oh, it's family time. Oh, okay, let me put on my piece of poo suit, and I'll go be the piece of poo I'm supposed to be with my family, or let me put on my entertaining suit, or let me put on my, oh, I'm the drug addict loser of the family suit, or whatever it is, And what's weird is it's so great to be having this conversation after the holidays, because that's what we've learned that we have to do around our family. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of the humanoids in the world don't really get holidays. Like they want to enjoy them. Sometimes they enjoy them, but most of the time as the holidays approach, they feel the space of them contracting, because during the year when they didn't have to be this thing with all these family members, they could be them. And then when they go to family, it's like, ugh, because there are these things we call structural cohesions, which is where you fit into the structure that you're supposed to fit into in other people's worlds. So for me, it's taken me, I get more of this every day still, but growing up was such a people pleaser. I just wanted to make everybody else happy. I never looked at what makes me happy. I always looked at how can I make them happy? And a lot of you guys are the same way. And so when we have that as our fundamental perspective, we go into every situation ready to know how to change us in order to hopefully make things okay for them, or in order to hopefully make them happy. And so I think that is one of the things you need to recognize. And, we have a lot of tools and access for changing that. But fundamentally, if we recognize that is changing you going, look at it this way. A few things. Well, let's just do one thing. Okay, is changing you actually going to make things lighter for you or them? Or would being you make things lighter, even if it was a little weird at first? Because for all these changes we're making, if you show up different, it's going to be weird at first. But if you stay that different, so when I say show up different, I mean show up lighter, show up happier, show up with more sense of humor, show up with more of you. Well, it's going to be weird at first because you're not in the box they tried to put you in your whole life. But what'll happen is if you are like, well, this is me, hi, and you don't have to force it, you don't have to fight, you don't have to prove you're right, you just show up as that you, what'll happen is after a short amount of time, things will actually start to get lighter and lighter and lighter for you and usually everybody in your family.
And how do we get from this space that we are so used to of choosing between, A and B, to actually choosing what is truly available for us, of us?
Love that question. Practice, 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 practice. As part of that practice, I suggest screw up at least one thing a day on purpose. Okay, do it totally wrong, whatever it is, and then laugh at yourself. Like not in a mean way, but in a fun way. Like, that's awesome. I fucked that up. I'm such an idiot. Oh my God, I did a great job. Okay. And laugh at yourself. We try to in the striving for perfection world we live in. So we're number one, are in a constant state of judgment of us. Number two, we totally eliminate choice, because perfection and choice are antithetic to each other. They are not friends. You can either have perfection or you can have true choice, your choice. And so you also want to practice choosing. One of the ways you can do that is you go, okay, I've got 10 seconds to live the rest of my life. What do I choose? And for this 10 seconds, you might stay on the Zoom. Okay, so that 10 seconds is over. You have 10 seconds to live the rest of your life. What do you choose? Okay, still here on Zoom? Cool. Okay, you have 10 seconds to live the rest of your life. What do you choose? And if you would do this, if you would set a timer for, let's say, 3 minutes a day, or look at your clock and set a timer for 10 seconds, and then replay it for 3 minutes, and acknowledge that you're choosing. That's the beginning, and it's that simple, and it sounds really too simple, but we've got to start somewhere. And then the next thing is, for choice, what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, if I choose this thing, what will my life be like in 5 years? And if I don't choose it, what will my life be like in 5 years? So for example, when I got invited to be on this, I looked and I went, okay, if I choose it, what will my life be like in 5 years? And it went like this, space. And I went, okay, if I don't choose it, what will my life be like in 5 years? And it wasn't as much space. So I went, okay, cool. And this is a tool for choice that we can use in the tiniest of choices or the largest of choices. And what we're looking for, what we're tapping into, is our awareness of what choice creates and what it will create energetically as our future. Because the other thing that we've got to start getting to is the awareness that we are highly energetically aware. I mean, so highly energetically aware that we are aware of a shift in somebody's mood before they've even said anything. We're aware of, oh, I chose this. I feel weird ever since I chose this. What is going on? That's your awareness of something that needs to be addressed or changed about that choice. So for example, we have a company in Australia, Access Consciousness Australia, and we were going to go there on the 22nd of January. And Australia has 14-day quarantine and it's Big Brother, big time right now. And absolutely no fun trying to get into and make things work. And so we did all the paperwork. We got visas, we got, insurance, we got blah, 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 all the stuff we needed to get. And from the time we made the choice to go, I had this weird in my world, but I wanted to go because we haven't been there in 2 years. and as a contribution to Australia and the people there, and I love it there, all these wonderful reasons for going. And the other day I checked the requirements because they were supposed to have changed to 5 days of at-home quarantine. And they changed the requirements so that we could no longer quarantine at our river house that we have there. We have to quarantine in a hotel for 14 days. At that point, we went, we are not going to Australia this time. No. Now, but here's the thing is, were we wrong for choosing to go in the first place? Did we not follow our awareness? No, we followed our awareness because we asked, what will our lives be like? What will the world be like? And what will access be like if we go? So we chose to go because it was like this. Oops, even the microphone is in the way. We chose to go because it was like this, and not going was like this. Okay, cool. So here we are, it's a month later, and there's been this weird energy that says, you need to look at something different. Well, we finally got the awareness that they aren't changing this. They won't let us quarantine at our house, and there's no way in hell I'm staying in a hotel for 2 weeks just to do 2 weeks of classes. If I were moving somewhere, okay, fine. Okay, so that's just me though. And so when we said no, I could feel that weird energy dissipate. And also the world got like this. Now, wait a minute though. I thought going was the thing that created more lightness. Remember the question, what will my life be like in 5 years if I choose this? Get the energy, the sense, the space or lack of space. What will my life be like if I don't? Well, yeah, it was like that. But guess what? Making that choice put all kinds of things in motion that wouldn't have been put in motion. So it did actually create that result. Do I need to now go to Australia to prove that I wasn't wrong for choosing to go to Australia in the first place? Hell no. Most people will suffer to prove that the choice they just made was correct, or the choice they made 20 years ago to say yes to some idiot marrying them was correct, or the choice they made, like, sorry, everything that brought up, pock and pod, okay? But what we do is we keep trying to prove I was right for choosing that, so I'm going to stay here, even when everything in your world, everything in the universe is going, get out now. But it's because we're not willing to be wrong. We're trying to make choice perfect, and we're trying to prove that everything I choose is not wrong, it is right. And that is a killer of choice.
Wow, Dain. Wow, thank you so much, because that just opened up, and I'm reading the chat, and it just opened up so much space, because it's also, it's like what you choose starts and puts in action so much more that is being created. And we never acknowledge that. We never acknowledge everything that's put into action with those choices. How is it, what would be a tool that you could give us, or that we have in access that we could use more for this, to acknowledge all those things that we've put into action with those small choices, but we go into the wrongness of, oops, we didn't go through with it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is we expect that if I choose something today, then I will see the results by tomorrow. And if not, we must not have chosen it right. We must be wrong. And especially if you've been doing access, because you realize there's a thing called choice, whether you know it or not. And you realize there's a way of choosing that leads to more lightness. So you're like, oh, well, now that I have done the foundation class, all of my choices will be perfect. Of course. I mean, hello. Why else am I doing consciousness if not to become more perfect? Have you seen me? I mean, I was pretty good already, but now I'm going to be like tip-top perfect shape. Okay. Oh my God. You could bounce a quarter off my butt. I'm so good. And it's like, no, it's not about now I'm going to make perfect choice. It's about, wow, I realize I do have choice. I can change the things that don't work into something that does. I actually have a sense of possibilities that things could be greater than I ever imagined possible. And now, universe, show me the way. And so the result of a choice you make today does not show up tomorrow. Okay, we got to something the other day in a class, and I was talking about how it was here, something called that I've been talking about, which is now is the space. Okay, for a long time, and if you read the Being You Changing the World book, I have the question on there, is now the time? Because right before that, a couple of years before that, actually, I got the awareness of now is the time, which I was like, I don't know what that means, but now is the time. Let's go. And it created a lot. And then about 3 years ago, I was in a maestro class and I said, hey guys, can we undo time now? Can we ask for space to be the underlying current of reality? And we all went, sure. Well, here we are 3 years later. We're in another maestro class. And I'm saying, guys, please recognize that this idea that now is the space means that we can create from and as space. It means the subtlety of our energetic awareness is actually creative and generative. It's not just a woo-woo thing in our head. And we have a space that we can live as and function from that has never existed before. This is where the embodiment of all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory starts. Like really to be embodied as that for all of us. And we went, whoa. And then somebody in class raised their hand and said, wow, we're talking about going beyond time and not having time be the limiting factor. Remember in that maestro class where we killed time? And I went, oh, I do now. I remember now. This is awesome. Now, that's not the only thing that led to this idea that there is now is the space, but it was an awareness that something we did 3 years ago was finally showing up in the world. And so this idea of how do we see the effect our choice creates, that also is practice. Because one of the other difficulties that we all have is that we believe that our choice creates bad things, especially for others and ourselves. Oh yeah, we have the idea that our choice creates bad things for everyone. And so, and remember also, your point of view creates your reality. Reality does not create your point of view. So when you have that point of view, all you can see is the bad things that your choice has created. So let's do this. So everywhere you bought, that every choice you make creates bad things for people, and every choice anybody else makes creates good things for people. That's insane. Everything that is times a godzillion, we destroyed and created, please. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And so the idea of finding out what our choice creates and seeing the whispers is to recognize that your choice is like a pebble dropped in a pond, and the ripples go out and you have no idea where they're going to land on the shore and what they're going to affect on their way out there. And start looking for the small effects of choice. The choice to give someone $1, give somebody a bigger tip, let's say, that changes their world, and you can receive that lightness from that. The choice to call somebody or text them and let them know how grateful you are and feel their world expand. Start looking for the small effects that your choice creates. And if you do, what'll happen is when your choice creates a big effect, you'll know the energy and you'll actually go, oh, wow, my choice helped create that, or my choice created that. And when you start to acknowledge that, you start to get this sense of ease with choosing because you have a sense of what it actually creates in the world.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Just
Wow.
acknowledge my choice.
Yes. Yay. Yeah, like your choice to create this. Your choices, those of you,
Yes.
those of you creating this, your choice to create it. What did it create in the world? Little or a lot?
A lot. And it created so much more than those moments of uncomfort or those moments of, or those, it just created so much more.
Yeah, that. And like, if you look at that, if you go, okay, so everybody who's been part of this, even if just today or whenever, everybody who's been part of this, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to get a sense of the way your holiday season or the way your world would have been. Well, get the way, well, sorry, my speaking is not going very well right now. I apologize. Get the sense of the way your world would be if you had not participated in this. More space or less? And for most of you, it's going to be more space. I mean, less space without participating. Now get the sense of the way your world is as a result of the gift that this has been. And now for you guys that are part of creating it and translating for it, get the sense of what this has done in people's worlds and the world. See, at this point, especially with this awareness of now as the space, it doesn't take millions of us to choose something to change the world. Everything that you choose that creates more lightness is a choice that moves our world toward more lightness, now more than ever. And doing something like this beautiful creation is something that goes in so many people's worlds.
Dane, before I would go on with you forever, but just there's a question that's been repeating in Spanish. It's how we sometimes boycott ourselves between light and heavy, how we tell ourselves it's heavy when we don't want to do something, or how we manipulate this light and heavy to do something, to not do something we want to do. How can we continue moving towards real choice or real light, or our true light and heavy?
Okay. I'm going to say two things. Well, okay. Number one, it's choice. You can use that as an excuse if you want to. Yeah, I chose to have sex with your goat because it really felt light about it at the time. Okay. So sorry. Okay. No, consciousness, we can use, we all know that. I hope you know this, but it's like the tools of consciousness are tools. It's like a hammer is a tool. You can use it to build a house, or you can use it to break a window or break a finger, it's a tool. How are you going to use it? And like, really, are you that interested in proving that you're right? That you would use the tools against yourself and against other people? The answer is yes for a lot of people. And okay, fine. The more they use the tools, they still get better. But if we recognize that what it really is about the choice to go, you know what? I am done lying to me about me. Okay, I'm done. As of today, I am done lying to me about me. Now, it may take a few years to get there. Okay. But if you make the demand of yourself, hey, no more lying to us about us. Okay. And then you go, consciousness, universe, please help. Because what happens is, brain fart. What happens is we will lie to ourselves, but we always look at, when I say that, almost everybody goes to, yes, I'm going to stop lying to me about when I am lying to myself and when I am doing bad things and when I am wrong. No, the biggest thing you're lying to yourself about is how friggin' great you are that you don't want to know. The biggest thing you're lying to yourself about is that you're far more aware than you want to know. You have far more choice. You have far more capacity, far more happiness, far more brilliance, far more kindness, far more caring, far more contribution to the world. And you can talk so fast that maybe the translators can't even follow you sometimes. That's really a capacity, by the way. Just want to say that really fast. See if the translators could keep up. I hope they had a Coke before. Some form of blood sugar. Okay, so everything that brought up, right, wrong, good and bad, pod, mock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So if we make that demand of ourselves and go, okay, I'm done lying to me as of today, like enough. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to take, but I do know it's going to be happening. This will be my future. And then rather than having a need, because it's weird. Where does this come from? Well, we grew up with people who judged us as though that was loving us. And so now we're judging us as though that's loving us. We have this big judgmental asshole with us all the time, and we're the asshole. You need to stop being an asshole. You're not your own best asshole. I'm a doctor. Even I can't figure that one out. Okay. So anyway, if we would be willing to go, okay, you know what? I don't need to be perfect anymore. I don't need to be right anymore. And I especially don't need to be wrong anymore. What would happen is then we would give ourselves the awareness of when something truly matched the energy of creating more, something truly had a sense of lightness and something truly had a sense of happiness, or when something has a sense of heaviness. So let me just try to give you an example, if I may, of, I'm going to say two different things. You tell me which one makes you feel heavy and which one makes you feel light. Okay. You are stupid, unaware, you are wrong, you are less than you think you are, you have never cared for anyone, and you don't do or be enough to make the world a greater place. Why are you here? Okay, that was number one. Then let me get to number two. Okay, was number one light or heavy, by the way? Yes, heavy. Okay, we all know this, right? And I purposely said things that were really unkind, right? Why? Because that is a version of the self-talk most of us have in our heads. Right there. We just, once again, never say it out loud. So we never acknowledge it. So we don't say bye-bye. Okay. Super heavy. I love it. Very, very heavy. Okay. Horribly heavy. Okay. Yeah. But look at how much of that is what we have been doing to ourselves. Is it any wonder we don't want to get light and heavy? Because if we actually got what was heavy, we would have to recognize this fucking thing for what it is and say no more. Okay. Which is why I say the demand of not lying to ourselves is so vital. So now I'm going to say something else. I'm going to see if it's light or heavy. Okay. By the way, for those of you who didn't know the difference between light and heavy, well, now you know what heavy feels like. Okay. And heavy is just different flavors of that, basically. You feel contracted. You feel there's a sense of like your world's getting smaller, like you don't have your wings, like your wings just got compressed. And rather than, yeah, you're like, okay, that's heavy. And it can show up in all kinds of ways for any of us. But what we need to do is practice to get to what is light and what is heavy for us. And ask right now, I would truly like to get what is light and what is heavy. Universe, show me. There have been times where I'm facilitating a class with somebody who's been in Access for 7 years. And I'll be like, okay, and we're having this conversation. And they expose a lie they bought about them. Their entire life they've had it. They bought it when they were like 4 or 5 years old from something that happened, which was where they were a greatness. They were awesome. They did something that was phenomenal and they were made wrong for it. And they've had this lie in their world ever since. And we'll finally get to this thing. They finally expose it. And I go, okay, so were you this thing you've been pretending, or are you actually this thing that was way too much for anybody? And they get it and they go, oh my God, that's what's been sticking me my whole life. And then I go, okay, guess what else you got? And they go, what? I said, what light actually is, the difference between light and heavy for you. Okay, so if you've ever had a moment like that where you got exposed to something that you thought was a wrongness of you that you found was actually a strongness, that's another indication for light and heavy. But I'm going to do one more. Okay, so you are far greater than you have ever been able to acknowledge. Because an acknowledgement for your being is something that is almost impossible because your being is so phenomenal. You are kinder. You are more caring. You are more of a contribution. You are more gentle and more generous than you've ever given yourself credit for. You truly are a beautiful and phenomenal creature, and you are a gift to this world, whether anyone else has ever been able to see it or acknowledge it or not. Lighter or heavier? Okay. That first thing I said was really the first thing that was the heavy thing, the ongoing lie that lives in people's heads. That was not an easy thing for me to say. This last thing was not only easy, it was wonderful to say. That's another acknowledgement. When you go to say something and it's difficult to say, there's some lie there, or there's something that can't be heard by the person you're talking to. But acknowledging, I love it, like butterflies on my back. See, and what I was doing with that was acknowledging you. Acknowledgement is always lighter. Judgment is always heavier. And I hope some of you take that I said and write it down, put it on your phone or put it on your mirror or put it somewhere, and just read it every now and again as a reminder from somebody who truly sees you as you are and desires you to be that is actually you.
Dain. Wow, I don't know if I can even talk. Thank you.
Truly my pleasure.
Just
Thank you. Thank you
really
for the invitation.
no words. Thank you so much. Thank you for your being, for the invitation you are to all of us, for that space that you create and that you open up every single day, every single minute, every single 10 seconds. Totally grateful.
Thank you, my dear. The gratitude is mutual.
We are Matt, Jesse, Ileana, Arlette, Marcy, and I couldn't be more grateful for Access, for the thousands of people that hooked onto this marathon, and for the availability of choices in our life to be able to acknowledge that gift that we are and just change the world. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you all. You guys rock. And see you somewhere in the world sometime soon, I hope.
Yes, we have the Global Bars Day on the 15th of January. If you have not done bars, please find somewhere in the world. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of facilitators around the world doing trades, giving sessions on the 15th of January. Please find somebody so you can try this incredible tool that will change your life. And if you are a practitioner or a facilitator of bars, please do a trade, share this tool, be that energy, and be that invitation to people and the world choosing more. On the 12th of January, we have the Wizardy with Earth 24-hour challenge with you. That is going to be incredible also. So yes, if you have not gotten the mail for that and you're not in the Access database, please go to accessconsciousness.com and look for events coming up. It's going to be incredible, connecting with the earth and communing with the earth, just out of this world for 24 hours. So if you've just come to Access and you've had this incredible opportunity to meet Dr. Dain Heer and the gift that he is and the gift of the Access tools, thank you so much for choosing. Thank you so much for choosing you, and thank you so much for choosing more.
Thank you, Dr. Danger, for everything. You can say the same thing 1,000 times in a row, and I hear something different every single time. We are all so grateful for you.
Thank you. Thanks,
And
guys.
Thank you so much. It has been great having you here. To all of you who have chosen to be here with us, how lucky are we to have Dr. Dain in the world?
How lucky are we to have you guys in the world? Seriously, this is so cool. Yes. Yay, us. Go Team Consciousness. That's what I gotta say.
And thank you to Arlette, Gracie, and Nili for always being there and making this possible in the whole world and in all languages. Thank you. See you soon, everyone, and choose, choose, choose. Thank you, Dain.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, y'all.
Kisses to you all. Thank you.